Don't let us.
I think we paid for it. And it's just like, okay, well, I might as well use it, but we're going to use it. It's such a non-factor. And Donald will come and cut it. That's what it is. It shows that just doesn't work.
Well, it's East Main in town, just like this is North Avenue. This is Fulton. Yeah, this is North Avenue, Fulton, North Avenue. It's called something different in the village. And this is Main Street, or Main Ridge, or Main Street. Main Ridge.
Yeah, but you could go to Jones. Yeah, that's what this is. It was going to be right now.
Yeah.
And service oh yeah, we didn't get it here, right?
Side here, so that we start track. Dude, don't leave me hanging. That's right, that's right.
Okay, we're on the record, People versus VanCallis. Is there anything, gentlemen, that we need to discuss before the jury is brought in?
On behalf of people.
Very briefly, Your Honor, yesterday when we were leaving after we were recessed, I got on the elevator and...
Have a seat, folks.
three of the jurors got on at the same time as me. One of them indicated something about you need to give your voice a rest. And I just, by instinct, just said, these days, cough drops are my best friends. And that's it. That's the only interaction. There was no pleasantries, no smile, we'll see you tomorrow. Just want to bring that to the court's attention.
Okay, bring the jury in. Thank you. Again, no cell phone videos or anything unless you've got prior court authorization. Somebody was in here yesterday shooting pictures that had no authorization, and they're going to be held in contempt for the contempt hearing. Have your next witness here ready to go?
Yes.
All rise for the jury.
Morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Anybody watch here, listen to, say anything, or read anything?
No.
Good job. Who's our next witness?
Mary Stein.
Ma'am, what is your first name?
Mary?
And it's just spelled M-A-R-Y?
Yes.
It's a great name. What is your last name?
Stein, S-T-E-I-N.
And do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're going to give us today will be the truth?
Yes.
Okay, have a seat and speak loudly, please.
Okay.
Morning.
Good morning.
The microphone immediately to your left, that long skinny one, does do some amplification as well as recording. So as you are seated, if you would do the best you can to talk into that, keep your voice up. There will be times where I will have you down off of the seat and we'll be looking at some things on the screen. So when we're down, then we have to depend on the ambient microphone. So I would ask once again that we keep our voice up, okay?
Okay.
All right. May I call you Mary?
Yes.
I do apologize for having to ask the next question, but we make a record. How old are you?
I'm 57.
How are you employed?
I'm a professor at Oakland University.
When you say a professor, what's your educational background?
I have a PhD in science education
And a master's before that?
and master's and bachelor's
Okay. How long have you been employed as a professor at Oakland University?
at Oakland University since 1999.
What school at Oakland University do you teach and what programs?
In the School of Education and Human Services, I teach in our teacher preparation program. I teach elementary science education courses.
Are you married?
Yes.
And who are you married to?
Douglas Stein,
Just without giving an address, what city do you live in?
Leonard, Michigan.
One of the basic questions I ask to sort of get you to the trail is, do you have any hobbies?
Quite a few.
With going through the litany of them, is one of them bike riding?
Yes.
Okay, and exercising in general?
Yes.
General question we've been asking is, what type of bike do you ride?
I don't know the name of it. My husband bought it for a birthday present. It's a hybrid bike. It's
Meaning off-road and...
yeah,
trail?
a little bit fatter tires.
When you ride, do you yourself have what we've been learning about as an app, a sports app or a tracker app for your rides?
Yes, I generally just track on my phone using Run Fast, but I didn't that day.
On July 24th? you
Right,
did?
on July 24th. I had a new odometer on my bike.
The app that you have that tracks your exercise, you indicate that's on your phone, it's not a physical item that's connected to the bike in any way?
Right.
The speedometer that you were talking about, or the odometer, is that an item physically connected to the bike?
Yes.
Prior to July 24th, when had that been purchased?
I don't recall. It was new.
Okay.
No, it was a new odometer, so within probably the month or so.
When you ride, do you wear any special safety equipment?
Yes, I always wear a helmet.
And would you describe, I guess, the type of helmet that you normally wear?
It's silver, it's kind of pointy in front, has some venting in it.
Any facial blockage on that helmet itself?
No.
Chin strap, I would assume.
Yes.
I see that you wear glasses. Are you nearsighted or farsighted?
Nearsighted, but not terribly so.
When you ride, do you normally wear prescription lenses or not wear prescription lenses?
I wear them also because it keeps the bugs out.
Okay. So you do wear glasses. Are they prescription when you wear them? Are those the glasses
Yes.
you wear? Do you have sunglasses?
Yes.
Do you wear the sunglasses when it's a sunny day and you're out on the trail?
Yes.
Are those then prescription sunglasses?
Yes.
Did you by chance, don't show them to me yet, bring the pair that you wore on July 24th with you today?
Yes.
Were you wearing sunglasses on that day?
Yes.
In terms of your general clothing, would you describe, I guess, what the weather conditions were on July 24th and the type of clothing that you were wearing?
Basically I wear biking pants that are capris. They're padded in the seat, and I wear some lightweight black capris over them. And
on that day, were they longer? Sure. When you say capri,
just below the knee.
just below the knee, okay. And the top that you were wearing, was that a long sleeve or a short sleeve?
I don't recall. I believe I had a jacket on, like a pullover jacket with a short sleeve underneath.
I want to take you to July 24th of 2015, if I could. Did you work that day? I mean, you indicated to me that you're a professor at Oakland University, and is school in? Are you teaching a summer session?
No, I was not scheduled to teach that summer, so I had the whole summer without teaching, and I did not go in that day.
What did you do, I guess, early in the morning of July 24th, 2014?
I took a very long walk, 7 miles. It was a record for me for that summer.
And you indicate that you live in Leonard, Michigan?
Yes.
For those of us that are geographically challenged, where is that in relation to Armada Village?
West of Armada, if you, I would say Romeo would be sort of halfway in between, or I guess more towards Leonard, I'm not sure, but it's west of Romeo.
When you went walking that day, did you use a trail or just, was it any place in particular that you walked?
Yes, the Pollyant Trail, which crosses, like it goes from Leonard to Oxford.
Approximately what time was that?
I don't remember for sure. I think it was around 9 in the morning. I don't remember.
Was Doug working that day, your husband?
Yes,
Did he come home from work at some point?
yes.
About what time?
He came home from work earlier than usual because it was a nice day, and I would say it was about 5 or 4:45.
When you indicate it was a nice day, would you describe the weather for the jury?
Well, it wasn't raining. It seemed to be pleasant for a ride, not too windy. It wasn't completely bright and sunny or anything, but a little bit, I don't know, it was pleasant weather. It was nice.
Sunny?
Yes.
Did you and Doug decide to go for a ride that day?
Yes,
Where did you decide to go for that ride?
on the Macomb Orchard Trail.
How far is the Macomb Orchard Trail from your home in Leonard?
Where we park is on Powell Road, and so I would think that's about 10 miles or so east of where we live.
So you basically put the bikes on the car, drove to Powell Road, and you're able to get on the Macomb Orchard Trail at Powell Road?
Yes.
We talked a little bit about your speedometer versus your app tracker. On the day of July 24th, you indicated that you weren't going to use your app tracker, you were going to use the odometer.
Yes.
Was Doug going to use his app tracker?
Yes.
Approximately how long after you arrive in the parking lot are you actually on the trail and starting to go?
I think it was just a little bit before 6, about 5 to 6 by the time we loaded the bikes and unloaded them.
Did you start your odometer right away?
Yes.
Normally now, as you're starting off on the trail, in what order do the two of you ride?
On that trail, we typically ride side by side. If it's not busy, with me on the right side as we were headed east, that means I was on the south side and he was next to me on the north side.
You were then headed toward, I guess, Fulton Road and then toward Omo Road, that direction, in toward, I guess, Richmond is the next city over?
Yeah, we didn't go that far.
I'm going to show you people's exhibit number 33 and ask if you would just step down for a second. Again, you have to keep your voice up so that the microphones can reach, and I'm going to stand here. Can you show me on this photograph, which is exhibit number 33, where the granary is? Okay, so the lower left-hand corner down here?
Yes.
And how far sort of that way would Powell Street be? How many miles do you know?
I do know because we stop there quite often. It's 5.1 miles from where we park.
Okay, so 5.1 miles from Powell to when you get to Fulton, where the granary is?
Right.
Okay. And then you recognize this as the path that takes you down toward Omo Road?
Yeah.
Okay. If you would have a seat for just a second. Several of the others who have been on the track have mentioned that when they come to major roads, they have to slow down, or there are certain drink stations along the way, places to rehydrate. Did you rehydrate at any time prior to getting to Fulton Road?
At Fulton Road, we stopped to take a drink. We were maybe going to turn around and go back since I had walked so long, but I told Doug I would see how it's going, and we decided to go 2.5 more miles to make it 7.5 each way. So we took a little drink and then kept going.
In the summer of 2014, had you ridden in this area of the Macomb Orchard Trail before?
Yes.
How often had you, I guess, how many times prior to that had you been on the Macomb Orchard Trail, on that stretch of trail between Fulton Road and Olmo Road?
I'm not certain. I traveled a lot that summer, but I generally during the summer and the summer before, we would try to get out once a week to that trail. It was our favorite trail. So that summer, I'm not sure, maybe 5 times, 4 times.
What I'm getting to, I guess, would be you've been on that trail a couple dozen times at a minimum over the course of the last couple of years.
Oh, yes.
Had you ever seen a motorcycle on that trail before July 24th?
I think we had seen a motorcycle in one stretch more towards Richmond, towards the fields, like kind of go on and then off, but not riding along the trail.
And we had a couple of witnesses indicate that there's farm land on both sides, and sometimes there are trails where they come up, go across the path, and then head to the other side.
Yes, it wasn't common to see a motorcycle, but I think we have seen a motorcycle maybe, once or twice over the years.
Just crossing, not riding down.
Yeah. Okay. Or maybe, I think one time, like cutting in and then off,
It wasn't a normal occurrence?
No.
If you're at 5.1 miles at that point, you're continuing to head east toward Olmo Road?
Yes.
Do you come up with a specific figure how far you're going to ride and where you're going to turn around? Is there like a number in mind that you have?
Yes, we wanted 7.5 miles, and I don't recall the name of the road, but the road past Olmo, there's some lines that cross, and I know that's about 7.5 miles, so that's what we were looking for.
Are you and Doug, I guess, doing any comparisons while you're riding in terms of the technologies that you have?
Yes, it was the first time I used my odometer, and Doug had estimated the circumference of my tires, so we weren't sure if it was calibrated correctly. So.
Is Doug an engineer?
Yes.
Okay. There's certain statements that become obvious. All right.
Yes. So right away he had stopped to start the digifit, and we were about 0.18, I think it was, off during the trip, and that seems like a strange number to remember, but it's because we kept checking against what my odometer was reading and his digifit, his phone, to see if my odometer was correct or not in terms of the difference, if it was maintaining at 0.18 or not.
How many people are on the trail, I guess? You've been on the trail a number of times. Did it seem to you the same amount of people are on the trail, or was it a lighter or heavier day?
I felt like it was a little bit lighter day. Of course, we might tend to go more on a Saturday and that kind of thing, but I felt like it was a little lighter.
Normally when you and Doug are riding side by side, it would appear that you're on the right-hand side, Doug is on your left. When you encounter somebody either walking or riding, is there a method that the two of you employ to not be, I guess, in anybody's way? Would you describe that for the jury?
Yes. So he has me go ahead and I drop behind when we see someone coming up, and then I'm always checking to make sure he sees them and everything, so I don't cut him off. So we do tend to do that same thing every time so that we don't run into anyone.
Let's get to the reason why you're here. On July 24th, 2014, you are on the Macomb Orchard Trail. You begin your trek at approximately just a little bit before 6 o'clock. You're now at the 5.1 marker, and you begin to move forward past the granary. Do you encounter a situation that you thought was unusual?
Yes.
Let's break it down for the jury. They have seen the GoPro video, they have seen some stills, they know what the trail looks like as you go past the granary and go past that open field on the right-hand side, and then you enter sort of this heavier foliaged area. Are you looking ahead as you're riding?
Yes.
What is it that catches your attention?
There were two people ahead on the trail, and it was difficult to tell how we would need to move. They were more on my side of the trail, but also in the middle of the trail up ahead and stopped.
When you say on your side of the trail, as you're heading east, then you're on the right-hand side of the trail, which you had indicated before was the south side?
Yes.
And Doug, you're indicating was on the left side?
Yes.
Can you identify, at least at this point, when you first observed them, the sexes, the genders of the two people?
Not for sure at that point. I just saw two people up ahead.
When you say up ahead now, are you on top of them immediately when you see them, or is there a certain distance between where you are and where you first observed them?
There was a distance. I'm looking up ahead on the trail to see how we need to move.
If you could, I mean, you've ridden the trail, you now have an odometer and a speedometer. Can you give an idea of approximately how far ahead it was when you first made the observation?
That's difficult to estimate, but when I first saw them up ahead in the distance, I don't know, I'm thinking probably 400 feet or something like that.
Do you know, I guess we've had a couple of people up here who are aggressive bikers who are doing a significant speed, and we've had others who are riding at a casual speed. Can you sort of give us an idea of the speed that you and Doug are riding?
We average like 12 and a half miles per hour. So not super fast like those who are really into biking, but we're not just very slow either.
Comfortable pace.
Comfortable.
Between you now and the two individuals that you see up ahead, is there any other person on the trail?
No, just those two, yeah, and there was a dog.
And we'll get to that in a second. And Doug is at least to the left of you, not in front of you? There's nothing blocking your vision to them?
Yes.
You've begun to explain what your concerns were as you were approaching them. It would appear that they're in the middle of the path, and we know that path. They've seen the photographs. It would appear to be 10 feet, something like that wide. Where are they, I guess, directly or specifically when you first see them?
When I first see them up ahead, towards the middle, but more on my side too, so I was thinking that we might have to go past them on the other side, but then they started to, the woman I found, later, the woman, she started to walk forward, so they were separating.
Before we get there, when you indicate that you can see them up ahead, how close are they to one another?
Oh, to one another? They seem to be together. So within a foot or two, a foot of each other, very close together.
Okay. And are what would be their body positions to one another?
My recollection was more like facing, but I'm not positive.
But they were, from the distance, it was clear that they were in you know, the Seinfeld episode calls it a close talk, or they're within their personal spaces.
They
close.
looked like they were together on the trail, and yeah.
From that distance, did it appear to you anything was wrong?
No.
Where is the dog at this point?
I don't know that. I don't know. I don't know. The dog was with them, but I wasn't really paying attention to that specific as much as that we had the trail blocked ahead of us.
Is the motorcycle facing you or facing away from you?
I'm not sure.
Do you know whether or not you see a headlight or a light or anything flashing from the bike as you're looking at it?
I don't remember seeing a headlight.
From that distance, do you know it's a motorcycle?
Yes.
You've indicated that you have some concern about having to then maneuver one way or another around those two individuals. Would you tell the jury what happens now as, well, first of all, do you and Doug, as you approach now after you've seen them, do you say anything to Doug at that moment?
I believe I probably said, do you see them? You know, which is what I tend to say to make sure that we know we're going to move. But I don't recall for sure that I said that.
Okay. Does Doug fall into a position behind you as you describe you normally do as you approach?
Well, at that point, that's when they started to separate. We didn't know how to move at that point until they were separating, and then we clearly had the woman walking towards us on Doug's side of the trail, which would have been the north side, and she's walking west, and so Doug was going to fall in behind me rather than me cut into his lane, which, had they stayed together, I would have had to do that.
The young lady that is now walking toward you, where is she on the path? She's obviously now heading in a westerly direction, walking toward you.
Yes.
We know that the path has a shoulder and that there is a paved portion of the path. Will you tell the jury where she was in relation to those two?
She was on the paved path, walking west, I would say in her lane, so to speak, on the north side of the trail, walking west.
The dog itself, is the dog roaming free, or is the dog on a leash?
The dog is on a leash.
Can you see the leash?
Yes.
How much of a lead does the dog have?
Oh, I'm not certain. The leash seemed to be tight. I would think it would be like 6 feet.
Were
something.
you comfortable that the dog appeared to be under control?
Yes.
Let's stay with your observation of the young lady for just a second. Do you eventually pass her?
Yes.
Could you describe what she's wearing?
I don't recall for sure, and so in my mind, she was wearing light-colored clothing, like a white top, and summer clothing, so probably shorts.
Did you say anything to her?
Yes.
What did you say?
Hi.
Did she respond?
Yes.
How did she respond?
Hi, and a tight smile.
When you say a tight smile, would you, I guess, A, give a description of what you call a tight smile, and B, what your impression of that moment was as you passed?
So I said hi, and I don't know if I heard her say hi or whether she mouthed hi, but she responded like, hi, and then it was just like a smile like that. I guess that's what I mean by like it was just, and she did, I just knew that she seemed tense with the smile. I don't know, it just seemed unusual. And I'm passing her on the south side, and she shifted her eyes like that to the south side.
Does she make any effort to stop you?
No,
Does she hail you at all, or give any other indication than that?
no,
Do you see anything in her hands?
no,
Did you have an impression that she had something in her hand?
no. I think I probably looked to see if she was holding the leash tight, and it was very, very controlled. At a, I would say, a fast, I thought it was a quick pace that maybe the dog was, you know, it didn't seem like there was tension in the leash, so I felt like the dog was under control compared to the dog just having a loose leash and could maybe go into my lane or something.
I'm going to show you, if you would step down for just a second, if we could put exhibit number 1 up. To show you a picture of what has been introduced. Do you recognize who's in that picture?
Yes.
Okay. Is that the young lady that you saw on the path that day?
Yes.
I'm going to show you people's exhibit number 4. Now, this has been introduced as Penny the dog. I would like to ask you a couple of questions. You were eventually interviewed by the police department, and you had indicated what you told the jury here that you did see a dog. Without using that as a reference right now, do you recall the colors that you told the police that you thought the dog was?
I said mixed colors, but I thought it was lighter color.
So you never said one solid color black or one solid color white?
No.
In fact, you actually wrote out a couple of statements, and in both of those statements, you're indicating that it was a mixed color?
Yeah.
Now, does the length of the fur on this photograph ring a bell to you? Is that consistent with the dog that you saw?
Yeah.
So you're not going to say this is the exact dog, but what you're saying is you saw a mixed breed dog, mixed colors, slightly longer hair?
I don't think I said slightly longer hair.
Did you say anything about hair being closely cropped?
No, I thought it was medium size.
Medium?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, thank you. You can have a seat. If I could have you step down for just 1 second before you sit down again. Could we put up 33? You've indicated now that you were here at Fulton and you were making your way down. Would you show the jury on this picture where it was that you had the interaction with the young girl?
So I remember it as probably right around here.
Okay, so just for the record, we have what we call Liberty Lane. We have had testimony indicating that there's a Liberty Trail to the, or a path to the trail. You're indicating it's just below this little subdivision here on Liberty?
I think so.
Okay. Now, if you would have a seat again. By the time you passed April, what was the distance between her and, at this time, the gentleman on the motorcycle?
It seemed like there was quite some distance since they had first been together, so I would think it was like 30 or 40 feet, 50 feet.
All right, from where you are seated to that back wall is approximately 45 feet. If we use that as some type of observable distance, was it greater than that or less than that?
It was about that.
Okay, so approximately 45 feet apart by the time you passed her. Now let's talk about the gentleman on the bike. You indicate that you're going up the trail, you see the two of them together a few hundred feet ahead of you, They immediately break apart. She goes to the north side of the trail. Now let's talk about what the gentleman on the motorcycle does. What do you see him do immediately upon the two of them separating?
Well, at first I'm watching April and the dog, so I'm not watching what he's doing at that point as we're passing. So he, during that time, had to go back to the motorcycle because they were just a little bit ahead of that. But I don't think...
Okay, hold on. You'd indicated at some point your first impression was the bike was in the middle of the path, but now you're saying he walked back to the bicycle. I'm confused. Could you... I guess, do you see the bike in the middle of the path or on the shoulder when you first observe it in the distance?
It was more towards my side, which would have been the south side.
Right side, true.
The right side,
Okay.
as I'm moving towards it, but they're a little in front of it, so I was not really attending to him at that point. By the time I got to him, he was there with the bike.
If you can recall, and I know that this is happening as you're going at 12 miles an hour and your distraction for April, then you turn to that person. Can you tell the jury whether or not between that period of time where you first observed the bike and then when you passed the bike, whether the bike actually moved or not?
Whether the bike moved?
Right. Did the bike change positions?
No.
Okay. The bike was parked?
Yes.
Kickstand down?
Yes.
Was
It was upright.
Upright. When you first saw the gentleman, after you turned your attention from April, what was he doing?
When I first saw the gentleman,
Correct. After, when you first, I know you saw them first way up in the advance. Now you focused on April. Now we're moving strictly to him. You've said hi to April. You've now turned your attention to the bike. We're going to deal with that moment in time.
Mhm.
Where is he in relation to the bike?
like right alongside in front of it.
So the bike is not being held up by the individual?
Not being held, no, he's not holding it.
Right. And he's not seated on it?
No.
And he's not standing right next to it?
He's next to it or in front of it. I don't recall the exact positioning of the bike, but it was on my side of the trail, on the right side of the trail, and he was there towards the center, and so I was going to have to pass him on the left. So now Doug was behind me on the right side of the trail, and I'm going to have to switch over to the left hand side to pass him.
Do you do that?
Yes.
Are you watching him the whole time?
Yes.
What's he doing?
He's just standing and looking down the trail, like, you know, towards the direction we're coming.
So, as you're coming, he's looking in your direction.
Yes.
And you're able to keep an eye on him as you're approaching him.
Yes.
Is there anything that darts in front of you, anything that distracts you from your observing him?
No.
Why is it that you're keeping your attention specifically on him?
Because I need to pass him on the left-hand side. I need to make sure that he doesn't move into my lane, and he's right there blocking where we would be riding.
Now, when you use the word blocking, I get a sense that that word gives me a sense of frustration that you're experiencing because it's in your way, or?
No, just that we had moved to the right to pass April, and then rather than move alongside each other as we had been riding, we now need to move to the left to pass him.
And you do
And
that.
so, yes.
While you're moving to the left and passing him, are you keeping an eye on him?
Yes.
Are you looking at him?
Yes.
What is it that you're looking at when you're passing?
I'm just looking at his face. I think I I don't know. I was maybe curious, but mostly I wanted to make sure he wasn't going to move into our lane. And I said hi.
Was there a response?
No.
After you said hi, what did you see him do?
When you say hi to someone and you're up close, you expect a response back, and he had an angry look on his face, and he looked down, and I just passed him.
Was he wearing a helmet?
No.
Did you see a helmet?
No.
Do you see that person in court today?
Yes.
Would you tell this jury where he is seated and an item of clothing that he's wearing?
He's seated right there, and he's wearing a black suit with a dark blue shirt.
Of James VanCallis. On a scale of 1 to 10, take a good look. 1 being the worst, 10 being the most positive. How do you rate your identification of him?
10.
Any doubt in your mind?
No.
Are you doing this because you're seeking attention?
No.
When you passed him, how close are you to him when you passed him?
About, if you come a little closer, about as close as we are now, because I'm going to go over to your left.
Okay, so 6, 8 feet, something like that.
Yes.
Is he standing on the path?
Yes.
And he's looking at you?
Yes, but he looks down, like I say hi, no response, looks down.
How does that, I guess, strike you?
As rude.
Do you comment on that to Doug after the two of you pass him?
Yes. I thought, of course, that it was rude, but I thought the entire interaction was very strange. So
What was strange about the interaction?
first, that they were together on the trail and they then separated. We don't see that typically. And then there was just tension, both with her and with him. Although I might not have identified that tension to begin with until I had the whole picture. I just know that she said hi, it was a tight smile. She was not running, she was not asking for help. But after we passed them, the other thing was that he, what I said to Doug was that was really strange. I wonder if he's an older boyfriend or a stepfather, or if they just had a fight. Something had happened that we didn't know what had happened, but their ages didn't seem right. So the older boyfriend or stepfather, and it just felt like an unusual situation, and we're not very chatty on the trail, Doug and I, but it was unusual enough that we both felt like it was in the motorcycle made it strange too. Like altogether, it was just a strange situation.
So it was so strange that you in fact commented on it, immediately passing them?
Yeah, I mean, I would say we might have gone another couple 100 feet or something before we started talking about it. And because then Doug is next to me, so we had to change lanes.
The jury will hear from you a little bit more about you following the case and that sort of stuff, but this impression that you just testified to was instantaneous once you got past the two of them to a point where you actually commented to your husband.
Yes.
Sticking with with Mr. VanCallis, do you know, can you tell the jury how he was dressed that day?
I don't recall for sure. I remember just darker, non-athletic exercise clothes like you might tend to see on the trail. I thought that it was like he was probably wearing jeans or like a darker kind of khaki long pants, not shorts, and a darker shirt. I was really kind of just looking more at his face.
And that's, I guess, my next question then. Were you looking at the full person or focusing on his face?
I was focusing on his face, so that's my recollection of exactly what he was wearing is very limited.
What about the motorcycle? Is there anything you can tell the jury that you recall about the motorcycle?
I don't recall a lot about the motorcycle either. I simply recall that the tires were thinner width, so in my mind I thought dirt bike because I don't know much about motorcycles, but I know they have the thinner tires. So I also, it just seemed darker to me, but I don't recall a lot about the motorcycle either.
How far down the path do you and Doug continue before you turn around?
To the 7.5 miles from Powell Road. So it was, I forgot the name of the road that's east of Omo, but we crossed that road, and then just a little bit after that, a couple hundred yards from there, then we turned around and came back.
Did you come back the exact same route?
Yes.
Did you pass the exact same area at Liberty Trail when you came back?
Yes.
Did you see the young lady that we've come to know as April Millsap?
No.
Did you see the dog?
No.
Did you hear the dog?
No.
Did you see a motorcycle?
No.
Did you see Mr. VanCallis?
No.
When is it now, after you've completed the ride, that you become aware of a murder on the Orchard Trail?
Early afternoon on the following day, on Friday, July 25th.
So if this was a Thursday afternoon, then on Friday, approximately what time?
I think it was probably 1 or 2 in the afternoon.
How was it that you became aware?
I was listening, I was at a shopping center listening to the radio news, actually for a different story, when I heard that a young girl was killed on the trail.
What did you do immediately after that?
I called Doug.
And that's your husband?
Yes.
And what did you do after your discussion with Doug?
I called the hotline. I looked up the number for the hotline and called the hotline.
What did you leave as a tip on the hotline?
Just that we were on, I believe I said we were on the trail and what time we were on the trail, and that we witnessed a very strange interaction, and we think we saw the victim and with a man who was riding a motorcycle.
How long after you left the tip did you speak to an officer directly?
That night.
Approximately what time?
I think they got to our house like 10:30 or 11 at night.
Were you up at the time they arrived?
Yeah, they were supposed to come a little earlier, and then they called, and we live out in the country, so they might have had trouble finding it, I'm not sure. But they called to see if we would still talk with them.
When you spoke with the officers in your home, did you and Doug speak to the officers together or separately?
Separately.
At the time that you spoke to the officers, did you write out a statement?
The officer wrote out a statement for me to initial,
And-
prompted by his questions.
Before then they left, did you initial the various responses that they had put down in the statement from you?
Yes,
And those responses were fairly correct and accurate at the time?
yes.
Do you remember?
I mean, reflecting on some of them, it's not exactly how I remembered, but at the time, you know, I said yes.
Well, let's talk about that. You're indicating that reflecting back or thinking back and reflecting on the case, are you indicating that over the course of time you've had a chance, I guess, to think more about what you saw?
Yes,
Okay. Has that changed your identification?
no.
What might it have changed?
Well, I guess like overall, I felt like I was being asked very direct questions about what the suspect was wearing and specific, you know, like being able to describe him. And I didn't feel like I could do a very good job with that. And so I was a lot more tentative, and I felt like I could probably identify him, or I at least knew I looked at him, you know, eye to eye, but I didn't feel like I could give much information to add to a description of him. So I don't know if I left that impression with the detective or not.
I get a sense that this has been, I guess, a big part of your life for the last year and a half. Is that a yes?
Yes,
And you've reflected a lot about what you saw and what you've had, what questions you've been asked about this.
yes,
Is it, I get a sense you're trying to be as accurate as possible.
yes.
On that evening, did you give a height that
Yeah.
first evening? What was the height that you originally gave?
You know, honestly, I think I said medium height, and what was written was 5'8" to 5'9", and I did sign off on that. When I reflected on it, but it wasn't reflecting on it, when I just paid more attention, I was on a bike when I was riding by, and Doug, I have 3 sons, my 2 older sons and Doug are more 6-footish, and that's what I think of as medium height. And so I was thinking medium height, medium build, really not so different than my 2 older sons.
When you gave a description of the pants, do you remember the description of the pants that you gave that evening?
I don't remember.
I'm going to show you a statement that has some writing on it. I'm going to ask if you would just take a look at that overall statement, and do you recognize that statement? Or that writing, I guess.
Yes,
Okay. It's not your handwriting, I would understand, but are those your initials by some of those answers?
yes,
I would ask you to look at that second paragraph that I have highlighted in yellow and ask you to read that to yourself. Let me know when you're done. At some level, does that refresh your recollection?
yes,
If I could have that back. Do you recall the way that you described the pants to the police that evening?
Yes, I think that's accurate. I didn't recall for sure, but I thought that they were, you know, jeans or, you know, some kind of,
You indicated to them green or gray army pants?
yeah.
What do you mean by army pants?
I guess I was just thinking they were dark. They were just like, so I didn't know for sure, so.
Okay. But that is what you said
But it
that
was,
evening.
yeah,
Now, as we go through
it was
some
not shorts.
not shorts. As we go through these statements, does anything about your identification change in all this time that you've had a chance to think about this?
No,
Okay, you're still certain that the person that you saw is Mr. VanCallis?
yes.
After that evening, I guess, how long are the police there?
And maybe an hour and a half, 2 hours. It was after midnight.
Going to Saturday morning now, which would be the 26th. Are you in communication with the police at that point?
I don't think so. They called us and left a message on Saturday.
About
About a composite. Doug and I were just trying to get our minds off of what had happened, and we went to a movie Saturday night, and they called sometime during the movie, and so I was driving home, and Doug called them back.
At this point, had you told Doug that you'd seen Mr. VanCallis' face?
We didn't talk a lot about what we had seen or not seen. Simply, I think we both felt like we wish we could recall more and had, you know, had a better description and everything. So, you know, I'm not sure what Doug thought about what I had seen and hadn't seen. Like he knew I had looked at him, said hi, you know, he knew I had a look at him.
Were you asked on Friday night if you would participate with a police artist to do a composite?
It was Saturday night, and I was not asked directly. I was driving, and Doug talked to the officer.
Your recall of the conversations, were you requested to do something?
Yes,
And what was
to do a composite.
All right. Did you do a composite?
No,
Did you ever do a lineup?
no.
When was the first time you saw the composite that was released?
On Sunday.
About what time and how did you see that composite?
Well, I would like to back up. So Doug spoke on my behalf to the officer, and it was my understanding that we would have an opportunity to respond to the composite before it would be released. That they were. I'm listening to what my husband is saying, talking with the officer or whoever it was while I'm driving. And it was my understanding that they were going to do a composite and that we would be able to respond to the composite rather than actually be the initiators of the composite. And that sounded good to me. So the next morning I called to find out like when and where should we come to so we can, you know, assist with this composite. And I was told that the composite was done and that it was going to be released soon. and that I would have an opportunity afterwards to respond to it.
How
And
did that make you feel at this time?
uneasy.
How is it that you come to see the composite?
I saw it sometime, I was watching television a lot then to see when it was released, and I think it was released later than, like I expected it would be released soon, you know, after talking to the officer, and it was released later, like one or two or something, at least when I saw it, on Sunday. And when I saw the composite, I was upset.
Why were you upset?
Because it was not it wasn't how I recalled the person I saw. There were elements that were accurate, but overall I thought there were a lot of inaccuracies.
Did you do anything as a result after you saw that composite?
Yes, so I called again on that Sunday afternoon to let them know that I thought the composite was off.
So you didn't wait a week or 2 weeks or anything like that?
No, I called
Immediately after seeing?
on Sunday, yes.
Okay. Do we have the composite, Craig? Exhibit number
115.
Exhibit number 115. I'm going to ask you to step down, Mary, and walk over here to the screen. I know that our people don't like us touching the screen, but I want you to physically touch the screen. You're looking at that composite. Is that the composite that you saw that afternoon, that Sunday afternoon?
Yes.
What strikes you immediately as what's wrong with that composite?
First, the age. To me, this looks like maybe...
Keep your voice up a little bit. Point this way just a little bit.
It
Okay.
looks, to me, like a younger man, like maybe early 20s, and I thought of, you know, the person I saw was probably 30s, early 30s. Again, my impression was older boyfriend or stepfather.
And that's just too young.
Too young.
What's next? What else bothers you about that?
The hair, for me, for my impression, and maybe this was the television too, the hair looked lighter colored, and especially that curly hair was not what I had seen.
What type of hair did you see?
I saw like a reddish brown hair, long, a little bit longer, not like long hair, but a little bit longer and straight.
Okay. So this hair doesn't reflect the hair that you saw.
No.
What about, what's the next, I guess, what does match what you recall?
The eyes and nose area.
Okay.
It's right in here. There were...
Keep your voice up.
That angry look, sort of the furrowed eyebrows.
So basically,
And the, yeah.
this area right here is an area that is consistent for you.
Yeah.
If you would, could you square that for me? So if we look at just that, is that closer to what you saw?
Yeah.
Okay. Take that away, Craig. Then you also indicate the furrowed brow and sort of the nose area?
Yeah.
Okay.
And maybe the fullness might make him look a little younger than who I had thought. I don't know.
So you think this is like a little bit too narrow here?
Or too full.
Or too full?
Yeah, maybe.
Okay. Either way,
Looked older.
okay, if you have a seat. You call the police, thank you, take that down, Craig. You call the police immediately to, I guess, inform them of these differences?
Yes.
What were your expectations after you made that statement to them?
Well, I basically, I believe I was told that now that it's out, I don't know what can be done. Maybe there can be some minor adjustments. He didn't know.
Were you ever asked to come back in and redo the composite?
No.
Were you ever asked to do a lineup?
No.
Was there some impression that you thought you were going to do a lineup?
I thought I was going to do a lineup.
And why is that?
I just, Basically, my son's father-in-law is in law enforcement, and it just seemed like that's the reasonable next step, since I had, seen the person, and I thought I would just be asked about that.
How is it, if you would tell the jury, that you came to see the face of James VanCallis?
I saw the face, like we were following the news. We were, of course, we wanted to know what was going on, and so there was an arrest, and I saw his face during one of the newscasts related to the arrest.
What was the first thought that you had when you watched the footage of the arrest?
When I saw him, I thought it looked like him. I thought I would be called in for a lineup, and so I just felt like seeing him face to face would make me, know that this was him, and that I didn't really want to attend to it in any great detail or anything like that, but I thought, this is who I saw.
Did you eventually call the police, or did the police eventually call you?
I eventually called the police.
How long after you'd seen, he was arrested on July 30th, how long after, if we use that date as a base date, was it that you would have called the police?
I called the police on August 20th.
August what?
20th.
20?
To confirm.
Okay. So in between time, were you in town the whole time?
No, I had gone on a vacation to Maine.
Did you get contacted by the police at any time during the time that you were on vacation?
Yes, I was contacted August, probably around I don't know, August 11th.
Who by?
Or Detective Donahue.
Okay. Did you tell Detective Donahue at that time that the person that was arrested is the person that you saw on the trail?
No.
Why not?
I felt like I would be called for a lineup, and I didn't know. I wanted to see him face to face.
The officers on behalf of the investigation, they never gave you the impression that they were going to do a lineup with you?
Not one way or the other. Yeah, so I just didn't know.
This impression came from a conversation that you had with your son's
Yeah, and I
father-in-law.
just thought that would make sense.
Why was it, I guess, that you called on the 20th to talk about James VanCallis and what you saw on television?
I had met with Detective Donahue on August 14th. He took me through a different process that was unlike the interview on that Friday, the 25th, where I sat in a room by myself and just really tried to take myself back to the very beginning of that ride and what I had experienced and observed, sounds, everything, like just try to immerse myself. And then after I wrote out my statement, he kind of, we kind of walked through some, like, is this how far apart you were, and just trying to help me remember distances or whatever, like just try, just letting me think about those relationships. So anyways, on August 14th, I went in and I felt like I was going to be called in for a lineup, and my spouse was in Mexico that week, and he was also asked to come in. So on that Friday, the day after my interview with Detective Donahue, I left for a trip to Maine, but my spouse Doug had been gone, and he came back from Mexico. And so he was going to meet with Detective Donahue on Monday while I was away. And I felt like my interview with Detective Donahue really helped me a lot.
Did you
And
make some changes, I guess, in the statements between the original night and what you wrote out that time?
I felt like, I don't know that I made a lot of changes as much as I felt like everything was much more clear in, you know, to reflect on. And
In that second statement, did you change, did you reflect more on the height and the weight of the person? That you
yes, but I don't know that that was due to, it might be the clarity, but it also was because I was attending more to how tall people look when you're riding a bike. So, my conversation with Detective Donahue helped me. I felt it helped me a lot. And so I was really curious whether it would help Doug as well. So he met with Detective Donahue on Monday, and when I talked with him just over the phone because I was away, you know, he said that Doug told me, if you think it's him, you should give them a call.
When you came back, then you gave them a call and you met with them?
Right. So my flight got in. I looked this up since I knew it would come up today. My flight from, it was Boston, got in at 9 on Tuesday night, and I just didn't want to be tired or anything else. So then on Wednesday, I really looked closely at, like, you know, any news videos and things that were out there.
That begs then the next question. The identification that you're making for this jury, is that coming off of having looked at a person that was arrested, or is that coming from your having seen him face-to-face on the trail?
Having seen him face-to-face on the trail, I did not want to call them up to say this is him without, you know, really without having seen him face-to-face. I knew I wasn't going to get that, so I really looked closely at the videos.
So you're not just saying they arrested him, that's who I saw because they've arrested him, and that's what I'm going to say?
No.
This identification that you're making here today is based on
what I saw, and that's why I called on that Sunday to say this was not, that composite did not reflect what I had seen.
You then went in and spoke to Detective, did you speak to Peckman or Donahue that day when you went back in?
On the 20th?
When, the 20th or 22nd, when you went in after you came back from your trip?
I didn't go in when I came back from the trip. I called him.
Okay.
I called him to tell him.
And what you told him then is what you're telling this jury now?
Yes.
Thank you, Ms. Stein. I have no further questions. Mr. Sheik will have some questions.
Good afternoon, Ms. Stein.
Hello.
Do you have a preference? Would you rather I call you Ms. Stein or Mary?
It doesn't matter.
May I call you Mary?
Yes.
Okay. Keep your voice up so the juror who's the furthest from you can hear you, okay?
Okay.
And don't be offended by any of the questions I ask. This is cross-examination, so I have to make sure that I ask some questions that aren't there, okay?
Okay.
All right. First of all, you have a master's degree, correct?
I do have a master's degree and a doctorate.
And a doctorate, okay, which is a PhD,
So you
correct?
should be referring to her as doctor, actually.
Okay. All right, I'll call you Dr. Stein. Is that okay?
That's fine.
You worked hard for that title, I bet.
Dr. Stein, let's start off with this. With your educational background, if we have some guy over here named John Doe who's this close to getting his GED, and we have you here, you have your PhD, do you think that your vision is any better because of the fact that you have more education?
Is my vision any better?
Yes.
No.
Would your recall be any better as to events that you saw?
No.
Would your ability to articulate what you recall seeing be any better because of the virtue of the degree that you have?
I don't know.
Okay. Now, let's back up. You're obviously an intelligent lady, right?
I hope so.
Okay. You were on this trail on July 24th, 2014, which was a Thursday, correct?
Yes.
Approximately 6:30 p.m., right?
Yes.
Thereabouts?
Yes.
Okay. And your husband was riding behind you on you guys were on regular bicycles, right?
Yes.
Okay.
But he's not behind me.
Is he
He's alongside me.
Alongside you. Wasn't there a time where he was behind you or no?
Yes. When we pass people, then he's behind me.
Okay, but for the most part, you two are next to each other.
When we're not passing people, if it's not crowded on the trail.
Okay, and while you were out on this ride, you did, in fact, to the best of your recollection and knowledge, see April Millsap, correct?
Yes.
That's a 14-year-old young girl, correct?
Yes.
And you see her dog, correct?
Yes.
And you felt something wasn't right in the interaction or lack of interaction that you saw between her and the gentleman that you saw on a motorcycle, correct?
We, overall, yes.
Because you said that she seemed to have a tight smile, correct?
Yes.
And you seemed to indicate that he had furrowed eyebrows and looked down when you said hi to him and didn't really respond to your saying hello, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And then later that day, when is it that you found out that there had been a death out on the trail?
The following day, during the afternoon, early
Yes.
afternoon.
Friday the 25th, correct?
Yes.
At that point, how did you feel inside that, how sure did you feel that maybe this was April, that was a victim? Did you know for sure, or did you think?
I felt pretty close to 100% sure.
Okay. And did you bring that to your husband's attention?
Yes.
Okay. And then you contacted the police?
Yes.
Okay. And one of the SOB that did this horrific act to this young girl brought to justice, did you not?
Your Honor, I'm just going to object to the phrasing. I mean, now he's saying, geez, you want that son of a bitch, but that's not...
That's not what I said, Your Honor.
But what does SOB stand for? Okay, I think it's an inappropriate question that putting emotions into her that are not on the record yet.
Your Honor, if I may respond, I'm not trying to put emotions into her. I'm trying to see the gravity of the situation, that I would think that at that point, despite the fact that she has 3 boys, she would think this young girl has been basically slaughtered and she would want to help. And I'm just trying to get the gravity of her emotion, not what her emotion is.
Then I would only ask the different words be used, like anger, distress, as opposed to...
Why don't you just ask her what her emotions were instead of you labeling them for her?
What were your emotions, ma'am, when you found out that this young 14-year-old girl that you had seen on the trail had turned up dead? And
Very sad and regretful that we had not turned around because there was nothing. We knew that it was her because as soon as I called my husband, I said, "Do you remember that girl?" Talking about? And I guess, no, it wasn't anger towards the person as much as what if.
And that's very sad. I know what if is a very, very hard emotion to deal with. Was there some level of justice in wanting to help or seeking justice?
Not seeking justice, wanting to help if we could help.
Okay, so when you call the police send somebody out to your house, correct?
Yes.
And who was it that showed up, if you remember?
I don't remember.
Well, do you remember what agency they were with?
They were on some special task force, I think really with the FBI maybe, and working with the detectives.
Okay, the detective that came, was that from the Michigan State Police, Armada Police, Polk County Sheriff's Department, if you remember?
I thought that maybe he was on the FBI task force. There were two detectives.
Right, that was African-American gentleman, correct?
There were two, yes.
Right. And one was African-American and one was Caucasian, correct?
No, both were African-American.
Both were African-American, okay. And now, are you saying your recollection is that one was from a different agency than the other, or were they both FBI, or you don't recall?
I don't recall. I thought they were both FBI. I don't recall.
Did they show you any identification, at least one of them?
I'm sure they did.
Did they identify the agencies they were with at the time?
Yes.
Did they make you feel uncomfortable, or were they decent with you?
They were fine. It was an uncomfortable situation.
And you knew, though, that it was an important situation, right?
Yes.
Did you know that time was of the essence?
Yes.
Okay. Did you folks sit and talk at your kitchen table, in the living room, or where did you folks sit and talk?
I was at the kitchen table, and Doug was in another room in our home.
Did the detectives separate as well? One was talking
Yes.
to Doug, one was talking to you?
Yes.
Now, the one that was talking to you, was he being respectful and polite, or was he rushing you, if you recall?
He was respectful and polite.
Was he professional?
Yes.
Was he in any sense using an accusatory tone with you, regards to you or Douglas or anybody in your family?
No.
So when he's sitting there, then he's writing out a report,
Yes.
and he's asking you approximately how tall this person is, correct?
Yes.
And at that point, you tell him 5'8" or 5'10", correct?
I think I said medium height, and he wrote that.
Oh, so it's his fault that the paper says 5'8" to 5'10".
I signed it, so no, I would not say it's his fault.
Okay, ma'am, it's been virtually 24 hours since you were on a trail where you saw a young lady that you were pretty certain was eventually killed, correct?
Yes.
You called the police because you feel regretful that you didn't do something, correct?
I wouldn't, I felt like, what if, like altogether, knowing what happened, there were signs, but at the same time, she was not running and she did not ask for help, so
So there was a lot of emotions, and perhaps I'm sensing some guilt. Was there some sense of guilt? Not that it was necessary, but some sort of should have done more, could have done more, should have, could have sort of feelings going on?
I would say there could have been, there was nothing to prompt us to turn around. So I know that we should not feel that way. But we still, if we would have stopped, we wonder.
Did those emotions that you were feeling, whether they were would have, could have, should have, did they have anything to do with this person's height changing from 5'8" to 5'10" to medium built to 6'1" or anything like that?
No.
Would it surprise you to know that on the day of his arrest, Mr. VanCallis weighed 205 pounds and was 6'1"?
No.
So when you looked at this document that these professional law enforcement officers asked you to initial after they came to you regarding a murder scene 24 hours or so prior, you didn't feel a need to correct it from 5'8" to 5'10" to anything, is that correct?
When I
You didn't feel a need to
initially...
correct that when they presented
No.
it to you? That wasn't out of fear or anything, correct?
No.
Do you remember the dog? Do you remember specifically stating you thought it was a gray-white mix or a blonde-white color?
Yes, I thought it was lighter than it was.
Well, just for the record, wouldn't gray and white or blonde-white be a lot lighter than black?
Yes. I knew it was a mixed color, and I don't know why that was my impression.
Do you remember also indicating to the police he wasn't very tall in describing the individual?
I believe I said he was medium height.
So if they had put was white, he wasn't very tall, would they be mistaken if your initials are right next to it? Would they have faked that?
No, they did not fake that, but they wrote down their impression.
And you didn't want to
I
upset
didn't-
them because this wasn't that important, so you didn't want to say correct it, right?
No, I likely didn't notice that part of it. I don't know. I don't know.
The description of a person that you thought might be involved in a murder was not that important at the time?
No, I was thinking medium height, and their impression of medium height and mine was likely different. But then after, when I'm looking at people on the trail, when I'm sitting up higher on my bike, I felt like it was, he was probably taller.
Ma'am, I'm not trying to argue with you or in any way imply that you did anything in...
I'm just trying to clarify.
Okay, and I'm just trying to get accuracy, okay? So at the time you signed this, there was no unprofessional cop standing there with a rubber doohickey to torture you into saying something you didn't want to say, right?
Correct.
There was nobody rushing you, telling you you had to do this because he was off the clock in 10 minutes or something, right?
Correct.
Okay. And you knew this was very important, and you knew a description was important to lead to an assailant, correct?
Correct.
At this point, you don't know if anybody's been arrested, if there's been anybody that's been a witness, if there's been any composite made. Police had no idea, right?
Correct.
So this would have been very important, right?
Correct.
You were also asked about the motorcycle. You indicated that you thought it was a dirt bike in a dark color. Do you have any qualms with saying that?
And no, I did tell him that I didn't get a good look at it, but that the tires seemed a little narrower, so I thought it was a dirt bike, and it seemed darker.
Yeah, you thought the tires were narrower, which normally would not be on a dirt bike. Is that what you're saying?
No, I thought a narrower tire would be more like a dirt bike compared to like a regular motorcycle with a wider width tires.
Do you remember being asked to write a written statement to the police? Did you write a written statement?
Yes.
And did you review that statement as well and sign it?
I believe so.
Okay. And in there, do you recall indicating that the weight you thought was 180 to 185 pounds?
Yes, I thought it was a medium, like my two sons.
Like your sons. Now, how many times did you have total contact with the police? If you remember.
Phone and...
All the contact that you had?
All the contact?
Yes. You contacted them several times, did you not? The crime line?
The crime line, yeah.
Donahue, Peckman?
Yes. I'm not sure overall how many times.
And you followed the case quite a bit, correct?
Yes.
And I believe you indicated you followed it online and on television, is that correct?
I did, yes.
Okay, and you saw the composite, correct?
Yes.
And if I understand it correctly, you told Mr. Catello in response to his question that you saw that composite and you thought that that was not appropriate, correct?
Right, there were elements that were correct, but I was disturbed by the parts I mentioned earlier.
Okay, how far is Leonard, and you may have answered this and I may have forgotten, how far is Leonard from Armada?
I would guess about 20 miles or so.
Okay, and that is also a small community, I take it? Leonard?
Yes.
Okay. So, you think that there's this killer, a 14-year-old girl running around, FBI had come to your house and talked to you, giving you a chance to make a report, and you see a composite on TV because you're following the case on almost every resource. You see a composite that's not improper, and you say, I'll just relax till I feel better or more comfortable before contacting them. It took a while for you to contact them after, correct?
I contacted them that same day I saw the composite.
And they told you, and you wanted to see about a lineup, correct?
I didn't ask them, but I thought I would be, in my mind, I thought I would be asked to do a lineup.
Okay, who is it that you contacted the day you saw the composite?
I think it was Detective Donahue.
And what exactly did you say to him? Did you call him on his cell phone as one of the crime line tips? Or do you
The
remember
phone number we had.
I'm sorry?
The phone number we had, so I'm not sure if it was a cell phone or it's the same one he had. I think it was Detective Donahue. It was the person who had called Doug, and I'm pretty sure it was him. And
What date did you call him, if you remember?
the 27th, in the morning, to see if we would be coming to respond to the composite before it was released. And then once it was released, I called him again to tell him about the inaccuracies.
Did the two FBI agents that come to your house, or the two people that came to your house, did they leave any contact information with you?
I don't think so.
You don't think so? You don't remember? Or
I don't. I mean, it seems that they would have, but I didn't interact with them again. So it
But when
was...
they initially came, who answered the door?
I think Doug did. I can't remember.
Okay. And then once they came to the door, they separated
Yeah.
the two of you, started talking to you,
Yes.
correct?
I'm sure they left us business cards, and so...
So you didn't
You know.
think to contact them?
I can't remember. I just know that we contacted the person who had called Doug on Saturday night.
Okay. Now you said that you called, the arrest took place on June 30th, of July 30th, I'm sorry, of Mr. VanCallis. That was for a separate matter, correct?
Yeah.
It wasn't, had nothing to do with this case,
Yes.
right? And they had shown pictures and videos of him and his house and family, etc., correct? TV?
At some point.
Right. But you do remember that, and then indicating that he may be a person of interest, correct?
I don't know if there was anything related to a person of interest at that time. I just know that he was arrested
So,
he was arrested, and that there was some kind of search warrant connected with the crime.
what channel was this on that you saw it, if you remember?
I don't remember.
Was it one of the big channels, 247?
Likely, yes.
And do you think that they go out of their way to show you the arrest of somebody charged with having 15 marijuana plants when they are only allowed 12?
I don't know.
I guess, Your Honor, maybe approach, we'll go out in the hallway real quick.
Sure.
have some notes. I'm going to ask you some questions that may seem out of sequence, but I'm not trying to trip you up, okay?
Okay.
I'm just not that well organized. Did you have a chance to review your testimony prior to coming in and testifying today?
Yes.
And who assisted you with that?
Who gave me the notes to review? The
Yes.
prosecutor.
Just keep your voice up. We have two prosecutors.
Bill Cataldo
This one right here?
gave me the notes, yes.
Okay. And, okay. So you discussed your testimony with him, correct, prior to testifying today?
He just asked me the same kinds of questions that I was asked previously and clarified.
So did he help you clarify the testimony that he wanted you to present to the jury today? Is that what you're saying?
No, he was asking me just questions that have been the same all along, probably for his clarification. I don't know.
Oh, so Mr. Cataldo needed clarification. He doesn't know what this case is about?
I don't know.
Ma'am, do you remember indicating that you thought that this person had brownish hair with a red tint?
Yes,
And you've said that several times, correct?
yes,
Look at Mr. VanCallis. Does he seem to have brownish hair with a red tint?
no.
Have you ever seen him with brownish hair with a red tint, including December 15 and 16, 2014, when we were in court?
Not on that day. However, I also stated that I was wearing sunglasses, and afterwards I was disturbed by that, so I did bring my sunglasses with me, and I think that's why that was my impression.
You mean you brought that with you today?
Yes.
Do you want to put him on and see if he's got, stay right there. If you put him on and look and see if now he has a red tint?
The lighting conditions were different, but I do know that this changes things
Bless
for
you.
me. Thank you. Everything looks very dark to me. Now, I would say right now in this lighting, I don't see a red tint. I do believe that, these make me see things a little bit reddish in the sunlight. That's all I can say.
Okay, that's fine. Now, you remember being asked at the exam anything about his hair, and you indicating, I could see mostly only the back of his head when I passed? You remember saying that?
I looked at him in the eyes, but when I passed, he was looking down,
Right, and then you saw the back of his head, right?
just as I'm passing.
So do you feel that makes you qualified to indicate, in response to Mr. Cataldo's questioning about the perm on that guy in the composite, that that's that kind of hair or not that kind of hair?
But he's looking at me to begin with, and that was not his hair. And it wasn't Mr. Cataldo's questioning. It had to do with what I said when I called on Sunday the 27th.
You remember stating several times that you thought that the person was younger than the 30 or 34 that you started saying after seeing Mr. Reynolds?
I thought he was younger?
Yeah,
No.
just a few years older than April, no?
No.
If you remember, you were asked at the exam, you remember how long you saw this person, and your answer was not long. Is that appropriate?
Yes.
So what's your definition of not long?
Well, I'm riding my bike up to him, and as I'm riding, I'm looking at him, but I'm riding a bike, and I'm covering, you know, this distance from here to here, and then passing him. So I can't do the math, but I would say, you know, I don't know. I'm not sure.
Okay, and
I'm not sure.
that's very good, Van. You, I believe I heard either from a question that Mr. Costello asked or your answer, somehow the average of 12 miles per hour. Is that about the speed you were riding your bike that day?
Yes, we tend to slow down a little bit when we're passing people, of course, and changing lanes. So right at that time, it could have been a little bit slower, but our overall pace is right around there.
Okay, this person that you saw, was he stationary or was he walking at the time that you saw him? Or was he in one spot?
He was in one spot. Originally, I think he was a little bit in front of the motorcycle and so on, but he appeared to be in one spot. I was passing April, and so I was attending more to her at that time.
Okay, I'm going to stand right here. What I'd like you to do is walk past me, which obviously is going to be a lot slower than if you're riding past. Just give me a glance like you did to this individual. Got your glasses on? Well, this side, that side.
I was on that side.
And that's it. Or a little faster, right? Because you're on the right?
Yeah, but you were, it's not like you would have been back at the wall and I'm walking, you know.
So in other words, you saw for a longer period of time?
Yeah.
Okay, what's the closest you got to this individual? I believe you said about...
Pretty close.
About 6 feet?
Well, the bike was in front of me,
Okay.
and so, you know, so I'm going to be like this. So
Okay, well, I'll tell you what, I'll stand and
Mike, you gotta stand still. She's trying to do the adjustment. And you
Oh, all right, I'm trying to adjust to her. I'm sorry. What would you like me to
The
stand?
trail is like that wide, so if I'm coming up on you, then when I'm passing, like that might not be 6 feet, that might be that close.
Okay,
Because we can't get too far apart on the trail.
very understanding. I'll tell you what, why don't you go back up there? I'll stand here for Mr. Catello's advice, and you walk past me in whatever distance you think, at whatever speed that you saw him at the closest. Thank you. At this point, your husband is behind you or in front of you?
Behind me.
Okay. And you're
Behind
also, you're not only looking at this individual, you're also looking ahead, correct?
I don't know what you mean.
Well, if you're riding past on a bike, I'm certainly looking at this person, but is it part of your vision, or at least your peripheral vision, at least looking ahead?
Well, yes, I'm going to be guiding my bike around him.
And you were asked if this person had any facial hair. Do you remember, or goatee, or any facial hair?
I could not recall. It was, I do recall it being a little darker shadowed, like whether he was, you know, dusty, and he was more right where, like into the deeper part of the woods where she had come out of it. So.
And what you just said now, isn't that almost exactly word for word what you said at the exam? You thought he was a little dusty?
I don't, I guess so.
Do you remember using those exact words?
I probably did.
Helps to have somebody go over your transcripts with you, huh? Do you remember the two gentlemen that came to your house? Did they tape record your interview?
No, they didn't.
Did they come a subsequent time where some officer did in fact tape an interview with you?
No. There was, when I went to see Detective Donahue, I think he turned on, he's the person who turned on a tape. That was on the 14th
14th of August.
of August.
Where was that done at? Do you remember?
At the school that's in Armada, where I think the police had set up headquarters or something.
Come to find out subsequently, I think that place is called Administration Building?
Yes, yes.
Gentlemen, do you have that tape interview of Ms. Stein? Say that?
Well, I mean, you need to identify, I would indicate to the court, if he has something he wishes to impeach her with, he needs to identify that spot. I'm not going to spend several hours listening to it, or we don't need to play it. She's here. If he wants to impeach, identify that.
Just to identify, we're not gonna get to that portion, we're not gonna let the whole thing come in.
Do you remember talking to Detective Donahue?
Yes,
Do you remember talking to him about the dog situation? About the difference in color between what you said, the dog being white and the dog actually turning out to be black? Do you remember that?
yes.
Okay. Now, in response to Mr. Cataldo's questioning on direct examination, he said, nowhere do you say the color white, you always say it in two tones, like gold and white or gray and white. Is that correct?
I guess I thought of it as mixed colors.
Okay.
Mixed.
You remember on the tape, when you talked to Detective Donahue, you clearly said, I can't believe that I said it was a white dog when it was actually black. Do you recall that?
No, I think if I said that, I really, I couldn't believe that it was a lighter color. Like, I just felt like I didn't remember the dog correctly.
Ma'am, would it help you to listen to the tape interview if you were Detective Donahue, where you're indicating to him yourself, and you say, I can't believe that I thought that a black dog was white? Now, is that helping refresh your recollection? Do you remember saying something to that?
I may have said that, but I just remember being upset that I did not remember the dog correctly.
Okay, so that would be a little contradictory to when Mr. Cataldo just got up here and said that you only stated that it was a two-tone dog at other times and never stated it was a white dog, correct?
I don't think I ever did state that it was a white dog.
No, but that's what I'm asking you. On that tape, that's what you stated. You don't recall saying that, or are you?
No, if I said that, what I was concerned with all along was that it was lighter. I thought it was a lighter colored, mixed colored dog than when I saw the pictures of the dog, and I saw that it was black and white mixed colors.
Hang on 1 second. Your Honor, we would like to play that part of the tape. I don't know if we need to take a break to just cue it up there. We have no
Well, we're
problem.
gonna go to lunch. You spend your lunch finding that part, and we're gonna have our lunch. How about that? We'll see you all back at 2:15. 2:15. Ma'am, you can step down. Thank you.
Thank you.